officials. He also met the family of Colonel MN Rai and offered his condolences.
As Colonel MN Rai's mortal remains are being consigned to flames, with me is Major General Bhatt, the Colonel of the Gurkha Rifles Regiment. General Bhatt, tell us more about this commanding officer's gallantry and the fact that as a colonel he was recommended and awarded a Yudh Seva Medal, sir.
Colonel MN Rai, Munna Rai, who originally belongs to 2nd 9 GR, went to command 42 RR, which is an Assam affiliated regiment. From the day go, he was ready to take on the terrorists, which he did very bravely. In fact, whenever I would talk to him as a colonel of the regiment, my advice was, I know Rai, you love to go ahead in operations and lead them. Be careful, you are the commanding officer. But he would say, sir, you know me. I will always have to be there where the action is. And the award of YSM which has been awarded to him is a very rare privilege given to a commanding officer. He would be one of the very few commanding officers who in his half tenure has been given this high award.
And this is quite unique that in a half tenure an officer gets awarded a Yudh Seva Medal. Tell us something about his skills in planning operations, in executing operations with minimal damage to self and maximum on enemy.
Munna Rai had established an excellent intelligence setup in his area. And he had a very intimate knowledge of his whole AOR, the terrorists operating there and intelligence about them. And that is why in this operation also, he was there when this terrorist leader who had come to his own place, and they were able to surround this house in time.
In any other case, usually commanding officers would perhaps send a young company commander or manage an operation from the rear. So was this bravado or was this unparalleled bravery that he led such an operation?
Well, I would just sum it up, the tradition of leading from the front. That is what Munna followed, and any good commanding officer will.
And the army is very proud.
We are proud of this action of his, where he has led his men from the front and given the supreme sacrifice.
What happens to the family now?
The Indian Army as well as the regiment is going to look after the family. They'll be taken care of, the children's education, the lady, whatever she wants to do. That is one thing. We have strong processes within the regiment, within the Indian Army, and we are going to take care of that.
General Bhatt, for the moment, many thanks for speaking to Headlines today. General Bhatt, they're clearly saying that the army will look after the family, and this is bravery, not bravado. With cameraman Kirpal Singh, Gaurav Sawant in Delhi for Headlines today.
It's an extremely emotional time for the family of Colonel MN Rai. We're getting you these pictures from the Brar Square in Delhi's cantonment area. Colonel MN Rai's body has been taken to the funeral pyre for his last rites. Colonel MN Rai was the commanding officer for the Rashtriya Rifles, a soldier who was recognized as a natural leader by his men and fellow officers. Extremely emotional scenes there. His family breaking down as they paid their last respects to the brave heart. Gaurav Sawant is with us. Gaurav, take us through what's happening there. Colonel MN Rai's body has been taken to the funeral pyre for his last rites.
All his brother officers carried his body, carried his mortal remains to the funeral pyre, and now the family, after paying their last respects, will step back, and amidst Vedic chants, his body, his mortal remains will be consigned to flames. This clearly signals the end of one and then the beginning of another part of life, as the preacher was just explaining to the family that, this is just the body that's been consigned to flames. He remains with the family in spirit, and that remains a source of strength. What they've also said is Colonel Rai's bravery will continue to inspire an entire generation, not just of leaders but also commanders. As the commanding officer, I was just speaking to General Bhatt, who's the colonel of the regiment, and he said that this is unparalleled bravery, a commanding officer leading from the front, seeking action, having total domination of his area of responsibility, having good intelligence about terrorists operating in his area, and that is how intelligence came to him. Now all of this will inspire the next generation of leaders. The fact that the chief of the army staff, the vice chief, the adjutant general, the entire military leadership of the army headquarters was here to pay homage to this brave officer goes on to indicate that the army is extremely proud of Colonel MN Rai's bravery. That's one part of the story. The other part of the story, 3 little children looking so lost, so shattered, and in an army surrounding, in any family, a father is the nucleus of any family. He's the glue that binds the family together. More so in an army family, because you see your father rarely. He's deployed in very hostile conditions. He's deployed at whether it's the line of control or fighting terrorists. Whenever he comes back, the entire family just gravitates around the father. The world comes to a standstill, when the father comes back home, either from office or from the line of control, and that family will find it very difficult to come to terms with the fact that their father is never coming back.
Lieutenant Gaurav, you also got us those pictures of Colonel MN Rai's 11-year-old daughter paying tribute to her father with a gallantry cry. The young girl, in fact, broke down in the middle of that salute. Describe to us what that salute means. What is the gallantry cry, and what is the sentiment behind the cry? I believe it's a tradition which is associated with Gurkha Rifles.
It's an age-old military tradition. It's an age-old tradition of the Gurkha Rifles. They're considered amongst the bravest of the brave, while every battalion is extremely brave. But even in the British Indian Army, the British relied heavily on the Gurkha soldiers for their dedication, for their willpower, and for the never-say-die spirit. John Masters, in his book, The Gurkhas, has to a large extent captured that spirit. And, ho ki hoina, ho, there are no self-doubts. Will it happen? Won't it happen? Will it happen? Won't it happen? That is what the commander asks, and the troops answer back, of course it will happen, of course it will happen. And that is talking about the gallantry. That is talking about whether you'll get success in an operation or will you not get success. So this is sure shot success. And that little girl, talking about this, Alka, all of 11 years old, when you grow up as an army child, your entire world is an army cantonment, an army life, and that is all you've heard all your life, from your father, from his buddies, from the Sahayak, who's actually like an elder brother. So in all of that, that is your entire circle, and that's the same spirit that comes from within. And so moving is this experience. In fact, for the family, it's surreal. They still haven't come to terms with it, and any family for that matter will take a long time to come to terms with the fact that their father is no longer coming back. He's never coming back, and now it's the Tauji and the Chachaji that will actually be looking after the family. It will take a long time for them to come to terms with it. While the army comes around, the chief of the army staff, General Dalbir Singh, told the family that he's always there for them. The Gurkha Rifles family, the army family, while they are with them, but you come back to an empty house with no father, and that is something that is extremely difficult for anyone to get used to.
Absolutely. And Gaurav, this family has been through an emotional roller coaster. One day they were celebrating the Yudh Seva Medal that had been awarded to their father. The next day he was killed in an encounter. Even before he could collect that medal, it's been an extremely traumatic time for this family.
It has been. I was speaking to some of the officers who had interacted with Colonel MN Rai, congratulating him for getting a Yudh Seva Medal in the middle of his tenure as commanding officer. As General Bhatt was just telling me a short while back, just 1 year into his command, and he was already when he was being recommended for a Yudh Seva Medal, it goes through several levels. For a commanding officer, it's his brigade commander who recommends him for a medal. Then it goes up to the div commander, the corps commander, the army commander. Then it comes to army headquarters, and there are several levels of vetting a gallantry medal or a service medal. Now, this is higher direction in a situation, in a combat situation, and the operation that Colonel Rai was awarded his Yudh Seva Medal for had operations not just of one battalion but of several battalions where 4 Hizbul Mujahideen terrorists were killed and 9 overground workers were arrested, and an entire terror infrastructure was dismantled. So that was again a brilliant not ground level operation but planning of an operation for which he was awarded a YSM. And I put this question to his elder brothers, Lieutenant Colonel DN Rai and Commandant in the CRPF and a gallantry award winner, Commandant YN Rai, and I asked them about how they best remember Colonel Munna Rai, or Munna Bhaiya as he was lovingly called. Let's listen in. With me are Colonel MN Rai's brothers, both Gallantry Award winners themselves. With me is Yatindranath Rai with the CRPF, a Commandant, a President's Police Medal for Gallantry Award winner. How best would you recall your brother, his gallantry, him as a brother?
In fact, what I have seen from his childhood till now, he was gallant, and we all follow the principles set down by my father, Shri NP Rai, and the other father figure, Lieutenant Colonel DN Rai, who is in the army, my eldest brother, and he has set us an example before us, which I think we both cannot surpass. Colonel MN Rai and I cannot surpass the standards laid down by Lieutenant Colonel DN Rai, who is standing beside me. And I think whatever he has done, he had it in him. He was a very rational man, and we never expected that a person like him, though he was very brave, but he was not reckless.
Yes.
And he was very mature. It was an unfortunate incident. That's what I can say.
Indeed, unparalleled bravery, and at this young age, a colonel getting a Yudh Seva Medal. The other inspiration, and I want to draw him closer to me, Lieutenant Colonel DN Rai. He's the inspiration for both the brothers. He's an inspiration for a generation of soldiers. In full military tradition, with a 21-gun salute, the mortal remains of Colonel Munendranath Rai have now been consigned to flames. His family standing by, with the entire army leadership, with the military leadership here in attendance, giving a fitting salute to a brave soldier of the sun. Colonel Munendranath Rai made the supreme sacrifice of his life in a counter-terror operation in Jammu and Kashmir, in South Kashmir, in Tral, fighting terrorists of the Hizbul Mujahideen. 2 terrorists, including the area commander, were to surrender but they reneged, and now his mortal remains have been consigned to flames. The army will now move back. They will step aside and now let the family mourn the loss. The army family promising to stand by Colonel MN Rai's family, but as of now, the army family stands back and lets the family mourn, not alone, but with some alone time. This is bravery that will continue to inspire a generation of soldiers, is how Major General Bhatt, the colonel of the regiment, described this gallantry. This is bravery that will continue to inspire other soldiers. But this also points to the fact that there remains clear and present danger of terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, and how the comprehensive policy is needed to deal with that terror, to wipe it out and not just be extremely reactive. In fact, Colonel Rai wrote a paper on this about how intelligence-based precision operations need to be mounted, using the local people to guide them to eliminate terrorist elements, at the same time keeping the people of Jammu and Kashmir with them. A major part of his operations also included winning hearts and minds of people of Jammu and Kashmir, and he had been complimented by the Corps Commander, the Srinagar Corps Commander, for organizing a series of cricket, volleyball and other camps, and also inspiring youngsters to join the army. And now his mortal remains have been consigned to flames. The religious teacher reassuring the family, trying to reassure the family that only the mortal remains have been consigned to flames. Colonel Munna Rai continues to remain with the family, in spirit, in their hearts forever. 11-year-old daughter Alka clutching onto his photo, close to herself, close to her chest. But this is a loss that can never ever be filled.
हेलो लाइव भी बंद दोनों बैठ के बता रहे क्या हुआ.
And I am standing close to some of his colleagues, some of his brothers in arms, and they tell me about his unparalleled bravery and his spirit. And look at his last WhatsApp message, the WhatsApp status and that message that he had sent to his other friends. It was in Hindi, and he said that such should be your life, that even when you go, even when it's curtains, people should be applauding for a long, long time. And that is exactly what appears to be happening now. His mother, his mother-in-law, other relatives are now being taken away from here. They are still unable to come to terms with this loss. But this is the life of a soldier and a soldier's family. His family are now gradually being taken away from here. They will spend some time. His family have now requested some alone time at the Brar Square cremation ground, just for the family to remain here. Some of his course mates are talking about how he was such a gallant soldier right from the beginning, right from his cadet days to his initial deployment in counter-terrorism operations, and how as a young commander, as a young commanding officer, he would always lead from the front. And these are stories that he would come back and tell his children about how the entire army comes together. And that's one aspect of an army life. When children are growing up, they grow up on stories of gallantry, not just of their parents, but not just of their father, but also other colleagues. And that is an immense source of strength, an immense source of joy and pride. But with that pride also sometimes comes this pain that now their father is never ever going to come back. And almost impossible to come to terms with something like this, but this is also a reality of the army life. Not just the Gurkha Rifles, but also the Assam Regiment. He commanded an Assam Rashtriya Rifles battalion, the 42 RR. And there also, in the short while, his troops saw his mettle and absolutely fell in love with him. His mortal remains now consigned to flames, but his tales of valor, his story of courage will continue to inspire a generation of soldiers in the times to come.
Colonel MN Rai's last rites underway. His family is gathered there. Extremely emotional scenes. Family's been through a roller coaster of sorts. One day they were celebrating the announcement of a Yudh Seva Medal that had been awarded to the brave soldier on Republic Day. The very next, the Braveheart was killed in an encounter in Tral in Pulwama district of Jammu and Kashmir. Colonel MN Rai is a commanding officer of the 42 Rashtriya Rifles, someone who was recognized as a braveheart by his men and by his fellow officers, somebody who believed in leading from the front. And as Gaurav has been getting us reactions from his fellow officers, they're saying that he could have sent a junior officer for the operation when he found out that two Hizbul militants were visiting their families, but he himself led that operation. Colonel MN Rai was killed in that operation along with an officer of the Jammu and Kashmir police, but of course not before they had shot down those two Hizbul Mujahideen militants. Extremely emotional time for the family. They've asked to be left alone for some time at the cremation ground. We'll be back with live visuals in just a bit.